Hey, Alpha Fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Today on Alpha Commission, I just want to go over what else can we say? The capitulation event which is occurring on Bitcoin. We have crossed the threshold of panic and absolute denial that many people have been in while I've been talking for months, since at least November that we were likely to have a ginormous Wyckofian, just total chart resetting, megalithic dump event. And sure enough, it's come to pass. And so all those months were not for nothing. And I hope everyone has been prepared. You always want to be prepared for a possible upside if we were able to break out in this area, or if we were able to get a last minute, reprieve and a pump just like we got in summer. But unfortunately, we weren't able to achieve that in either of these two critical areas over here at 48,000, and then pretty much our last chance around 40,000. And after that, sure enough, we had the dump. A lot of people laughed at the idea that we could be having yet another Wyckoff event on the Bitcoin chart, which of course is the chart that controls the rest of crypto. It's sort of like those big caps in the stock market. If Google doesn't do well, if Apple doesn't do well, if these big names don't do well, then it tanks the rest of the stocks. That's how Bitcoin is to the rest of crypto. And Bitcoin, sure enough, had an accumulation phase, and then it had a redistribution phase. And the redistribution schematic was almost perfect. And I mentioned around here, that if we were going to have a last chance, it was going to be in that $40,000 area, and that we would have to achieve $41,000 and $41,500. And if we weren't able to achieve that, we were going to have a dump fest. We were not able to achieve $41,500, and we did, in fact, dump, right? So, what kind of support structure was that looking like? It was looking like this. Let me go ahead and take off those EMAs. So we had these type of support structures being built, and this was our last chance, kind of critical triangle wedge to break to the upside. Which these descending wedges have a higher chance of breaking to the upside. But we had the Wyckofian SOW, signs of weakness, and those signs of weakness did not allow us to sufficiently break through the resistance that had been formed out of our previous support when we broke down, and we were not able to achieve that 41,000 level, which means it was game over. This pattern had essentially been confirmed. And so the next thing I mentioned is that having been rejected there, if we broke 37,000, while we were at 40,000. If we had broken under 37,000, hang on to your hats, and sure enough, we have had a massive dump fest. I know that a lot of my hero traders and some other guys with 10 years experience, all of this stuff have been saying that they think maybe it's going to be more gentle than in previous years, and maybe 30,000 is the bottom, and 28,000 they think it's really the bottom. But that doesn't really make sense because we're having a major correction in the stock market on top of the correction in the crypto market. And it's just a perfect confluence of dangerous factors, including having the Federal Reserve against us. In every disaster in the history of Bitcoin, the Federal Reserve has been there to bail out at least stocks, and then that gave a boost to crypto. But in this case, the Fed is contributing to the problem because they are fighting inflation. They do not care about stock prices right now. Like, stock prices is the last thing on their mind. They do not care about stock prices. Stocks had a wild ride for like a couple decades. Like, if you didn't get rich on stocks and on crypto yet, The Fed does not care because you had your chance for like 2 decades in those markets. And so they're saying right now we need to fight inflation, the inflation that came from low interest rates and printing money for those like 10 to 20 years, which gave that kind of free ride to the stock market and the crypto industry. And so all these chickens are coming home to roost. And I was mentioning it's going to be a perfect storm along with the tightening of the supply channels in regular distribution for business, and the overheating of the US market, which is just a powerhouse. The American market, never underestimate the American people. They do business. Like business is the business of America. Like we do business and we get it going. You get out of our way, we make stuff happen. And so the American market, when the doors opened up after COVID, it just got super overheated and there was super competition for jobs, super competition for supplies, super competition for all of these things that make economies just boil and overheat, and it was happening all at the same time, plus all of the competition from the rest of the world opening up at the same time. And you can imagine if you're a small business and you just have one competitor opening up next to you, like a competitor for resources and the labor force and all of those things, then of course it's going to be tough on your business. Now imagine every business opening up, at the exact same time, competing for that same labor and resources and all of that stuff. There was not the capacity in the world. China, India, a lot of these places where we get supplies from were not fully opened yet. China is still cracking down on COVID. A lot of this stuff is still shut down, and that means that it's very difficult for the market to catch up to American enterprise, and that contributed to inflation along with those couple decades of printing money, and the reluctant policies of Jerome Powell, probably, in my opinion, the biggest criminal in the history of the Federal Reserve, orchestrating the largest transfer of wealth from basically the middle class retirement funds to the transnationalist billionaires involved in the American stock market and in the crypto industry, which we can see those vampires have just sucked the blood out of Luna. And if you guys have been paying attention to Luna, it went from basically $105 to less than a dollar within one day. And if you had your money in that Luna stablecoin, guess who has your money now? Those transnationalist, globalist billionaires, the vampire venture capitalist, all of these guys who, when times are good, we love to praise them, but when times are bad, we know who's picking our pocket, and it is them. They do it much better than Uncle Sam. They do it much more efficiently than the government. If you think like taxes are bad, think about Ethereum fees. If you think that losing money to pay your taxes is bad, think about people who just lost all of their savings that they had in UST, right? The Terra Luna stablecoin, where that dollar has just become almost worthless, like a third world country. And you know who is still stable? The US dollar. The US dollar is still skyrocketing and is the most stable currency in the world. Do not become an idealist in this industry. These Wyckofian market makers and the vampire venture capitalist and all of these big transnational globalist players who want to be free from governments, and they want their stable coins, they want their ecosystems to be the dominant digital dollar in the future, and they're competing with governments. All of these powers are at war right now. China, the US, the European Union. You see South America adopting like a Bitcoin. You see like these billionaire investors like trying to create things like UST. You see like the old guard in USDT, right? You see all of these new type of stable coins coming out. Everyone in the world is competing for dominance of the next digital dollar. And I'm telling you guys, like crypto is probably going to lose. It's probably the winner is probably going to be the US digital dollar. Just keep that in the back of your mind. Don't become an idealist. Be very practical and be very skeptical of these DeFi projects, especially during the bear market. So with that out of the way, and sorry for the rant, but I just feel like sometimes we need a reality check because people get into la la land and they tell you to buy things at like $3 or $6, when you could buy it for 50 cents, down here. And a lot of these things, like Luna, is Luna actually worth $105 or is it worth $1? Right? Well, what did investors, pay for it? The original investors paid like something like 70 cents or 80 cents for it. So, what is the actual value of that if it's not in widespread use, if people aren't using it for business, if people aren't using it for a diverse amount of applications? This industry is very early. Do not be an idealist. The guys in charge of this stuff, half of them are crooks. The other half are vampire vulture capitalists. Nobody is in this industry except to make money and to gain freedom. And potentially overlapping either of those or both is to have power over the next era of digital currency. And it's not going to be you or me, it's going to be some transnationalist globalist billionaire group, right? Or it's going to be some government like China, the Chinese digital yuan, or it's going to be the US digital dollar, or the Eurozone, digital dollar, or it's going to be perhaps Bitcoin. That would be an interesting outcome, wouldn't it? But we're not there yet. We don't know what's going on, and so these wars are going to play out. And I wouldn't be surprised personally. I don't want to start any type of conspiracy or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if whoever undermined Terra Luna's stablecoin, which had become the model for the future of stablecoins, aka digital currency for the future. I wouldn't be surprised if that was tied to a government group or if it was tied to a competitor group trying to create their own stablecoin, or if it was just an inside job that we haven't figured out yet and somebody cashed out before the dump in the market. So don't become idealists. Don't worship these kind of like CEO influencers. These guys are really weird. Okay, like I love, I love everything that like Elon Musk and like Do Kwon and all these guys. Steve Jobs, all of these guys like made amazing stuff. Like we can't deny that. We have to give them credit where credit is due. They either had the vision for it or they put up the resources for it. And anyway, they saw it through, right? We have to give them credit where credit is due. But we also don't have to worship them as gods. These guys are all in it to take your money or for power. They are not doing it, right? They are not doing it for your family's benefit, and you need to protect yourselves. That's why I've been giving you these warnings about these signs of weakness, and I put up the Wyckoff chart for you weeks ago so that you would understand what was coming. That's why I developed this concept of the death cross and confirmed it with some other strategies that I found online. Um, which I believe it was Crypto Crew. We developed similar concepts using different EMAs and different timescales, and I matched mine to his because his is very popular, and so, or at least niche. And sure enough, I made this target area where this was probably going to be the last place that we would break, and I created this zone, right, between this red line and this yellow line, and these have been on my chart for weeks. And I said we were going to most likely start to break down in this area. And then when we hit this area, most likely we are going to start to see the ultimate capitulation, right? Well, we are coming through this zone. And again, guys, like nobody else was showing you this stuff. A lot of guys were just being moon boys and stuff. And I told you, like, this was the most dangerous point in crypto that you could be in, and that we would most likely see capitulation if we didn't get over that 41,500 at the last minute just to get over the midline. And then we had to get over 44,000 to get over this blue line that I set up. And if we didn't achieve those two things, we weren't going to avoid this death cross. We've had the death cross, and this is the result of it. And what was our, secondary point? Let's say that you missed my warning about $37,000. What was the last point that you had, to potentially, get out of this market? Well, there was these two supports that overlapped here, and that would have been your first DCA point because this would have been an area that you can see that we have just bounced before, and this was what a lot of people, perhaps who were bearish but not as bearish as me, at least they didn't have the theory or the understanding of global macroeconomics to understand that we could go deeper. They were thinking, okay, maybe this is the bottom. Maybe this is the bottom. And then we have traders who've been trading for 10 years and they've just been used to the Fed's infusion of money in the market. People like, Crypto Crown and all these other guys, and they were saying, most likely $28,000 is the limit, just kind of freak people out. And then actually, we're going to use this kind of support because we built up a good base. Not so, not so. I was strongly warning that if you were paying attention to the macroeconomics, that was not likely to be the case. What was the case that I laid out? Well, if we go ahead and get rid of our Wyckoff distribution, and I don't want to freak anybody out with this, I'm just saying, look how closely this has followed to my fractal. Okay, even look at this little zone where we have this like hiccup, right? This little catch area. Look at that fractal right there. Okay, guys. Like, if this isn't voodoo fortune telling, looking into a crystal ball, then I don't know what is, because you can't get any closer than this to the truth about what is happening. And if you combine that with, of course, the death cross that I put out there, and you can just see, like, I had this warning up for you guys, okay? I had this warning up. And whether or not I was personally, hopeful at 40,000, I was strongly warning that these things were very likely to occur. And so my DCA boxes are as below. I know some of you guys probably need some guidance. We hit my first box. That was my first DCA point because we don't know. Maybe we were going to bounce off of that support, right? That was a double support. It was a good possibility that we could bounce. And if you had DCA'd in there, you wouldn't have been the worst off. You would have bounced all the way up here, almost 10% of Bitcoin. And then when we had signs that we were turning around, right? We made a little lower high here, right? So just moving to the 4 hour now. I was on the daily previously. So if you had bought at that bottom of that support, this green zone that I had, then we would have bounced up. As soon as we hit the top of that zone, look, we hit it almost perfectly, that zone that I had laid out for you. Okay, like this green bar existed before this price action existed. And then, we fell down and we made a lower high. So most likely we weren't going to get back up to here. You sell out for a profit, and then we go into the next zone. What do? We almost hit the bottom of this next zone that I marked out. And these ones get more imprecise the further we go because this is more, there's less price action down here to test, right? Because up here we had all of this, past price action to understand like how the behavior of Bitcoin went. And as we go down lower, we're just guessing. Okay, like nobody is really a fortune teller. Nobody can tell the future. Nobody has a crystal ball for this stuff. Okay, guys, I am just a continuous learner like you guys. I'm not some expert on what's going to happen in the future for Bitcoin. I can only teach you what I know, and hopefully, if I make a mistake, you correct me in the comments or in the Discord, which is in the description of the video. We've been having some nice talks over at the Discord recently. I'm going to be starting more talks there because I think it's during the bear market that we all need guidance and that we all need to talk to each other about the possible coins that we could accumulate as we DCA down. What you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be necessarily selling your coins at these levels. These are the levels that you should be DCAing in. These levels up here are where you should have been DCAing out. Of course, I have my Alpha Origin channels, which I had created specifically to give you guidance on that matter, which is to say that let me go ahead and get on a higher time frame, which is to say that whenever we are in that red area, you want to DCA out, like of everything. Don't be greedy. Just start DCing out as soon as you can when we're in these red areas. When we're in these purple areas, you can be trading all you want, but make sure to take your profit every freaking chance you get. You're not holding at these levels, you are trading at these levels. And then when you drop into this blue area, then you can start DCAing in, which it means dollar cost averaging. And of course, that means that you should be buying, but it doesn't mean that you should be overdoing it necessarily. You want to lean heavier towards the bottom, as we go down, so that your price average is lower. And if you DCA in too high, you may just have to wait longer in order to make some type of a profit, which is to say that, you know, it could take several months to reach this price. We don't know how low we could go. We don't know how long we could go sideways. So if you bought in, at 36K or at 30K, then your price might take longer until we reach that price point. But if you are buying at 25K or you're buying at 20K, then most likely, we're going to start rounding up at some point, and you could almost be in profit very soon, right? So you want to buy more the more that you go down, and you don't want to deploy all your cash at just one level. And if we do hit a bottom, and then we have an EMA cross, right, that confirms that we're going to have some bullishness, which we are a long way from that, then what we would do is just start to accumulate on pullbacks on our way back up. I'd rather buy in late than have no money to spend at the bottom. Do you understand the philosophy there? Because if we drop really low, you're going to be very, very glad that you have cash, because that's going to be the point where millionaires are made, right? And of course, I have these diagonal boxes, which kind of give you a hint, at the intensity of which you should be spending, like as we go down here. Personally, I don't think that we're going to go lower than 22,000. I have this red line in the middle. You can see this red line that goes through here. I think that's probably the bottom. It was the primary bottom during the COVID dump. It was the primary bottom during 2018. And it's basically been the origin line, that master origin line for Bitcoin when it was undersold in its beginning to when it was oversold in its blow off top in 2018. And so unless we're going to do a, a mass historical reset, which gets us down into these green areas, most likely we've reached a critical mass where we're being supported by this red bar, right? It supported us here for this liftoff. It supported us here for this liftoff. It supported us here for this liftoff. And I'm just, basing it on those assumptions these 3 times. Okay, not much data to go by, but those 3 times, I'm suggesting that it's probably going to be our major support to get us back over this yellow line. And you want to basically accumulate while you're in the blue area. And if we ever get into the green area, like we did during the COVID dump and during the beginning of Bitcoin's history, if we ever get into the green area, you want to just, buy as much as you can and just hold it until we get to that yellow line again. This is the strategy that I'm laying out. This is the alpha strategy that I'm having here. I think that this could make people a ton of money, but do not doubt for 1 second that this could be a longer crypto winter, or it could be a multi-year bear market, and we don't know what the future is going to entail. All of this is risky. And again, I'm talking to myself. All of this is advice for myself. I'm a continuous learner trying to improve my own trading. If anyone else benefits from it, do not accept it as advice of any kind. This is solely for your entertainment to watch how I'm thinking about it, and just for some social, entertainment activities. So please mind your own risk. And please be very careful about the coins that you go into. They should be projects that have lots of funding, that are good projects which can endure a potential crypto winter that could take many years. If we go ahead and throw on the EMAs, and on average we can see that it maybe takes like 3 months for a bounce, right? You saw this like 3 months and then a bounce, 3 or 4 months and then a bounce, and then some of these areas can last for 6 months, but overall they move up. So let's say the worst case we move sideways. So we do, instead of up, we move like sideways. So let's say that we have like 3 months of sideways action, then we have a little bit of a pump. You can take some profit on that, and potentially there's going to be a pullback, and then you can buy a little bit more, and then maybe we keep going sideways for, who knows, maybe all of 2023. And then we could have potentially a huge bull run like we had back here and back here, right, in 2017 and 2020. But it might take until 2023 or the end of 2023 in order to have that bull run. So make sure that whatever you're spending is not going to tap you out, before that happens, okay? Because you want to be accumulating during these months, right? You don't want to be just out of the market and forgetting to buy and then buying in when we're already back above this yellow line. And then you get back in and just the market collapses again, right? That's why most people lose their money. So again, like this is my self-advice. I'm just repeating these things so that I can hear it. I'm alone in my room. I'm not really talking to anyone right now. But you have to think about these things from your own perspective if you are going to take it into consideration. Let's see. Let's just turn off these channels really quick and take a look at the possible levels that we have going on here. Well, let me put that back on. Let's go to the 4-hour. And on the 4-hour, you can see that, of course, this was the most brightly, intense area. We're kind of in that area again in this 26,000. So we've already hit the first DCA point. Second DCA point is this $26,000 area. And then for me, a third DCA point would be around $22,000 because everyone's targeting $20,000. Some people targeting $21,000. I just don't know if we're necessarily going to get there. So 22,000 is probably a reasonable area, and you can buy wherever, but because we're in these areas where you should be accumulating. But you don't have to spend everything right now. You just, buy 10% here, maybe buy another 15% here, maybe buy like 35% here. And let's say we start rounding out. Maybe we never get to these lower levels. We start rounding out. You have money to deploy if we happen to crash to like 18 or even, who knows, 12. You never know what's going to happen in the world, right? There could be a nuclear war or something. And so you just reserve some cash. But if we start to round out and we start to have bullish EMA crossings, then on pullbacks on our way back up, you could buy some more, right? And that might look like something like this. Like, oh no, we didn't get to the bottom. I didn't get to use the rest of my bag, but we're making higher lows, and so that's kind of confirmation of bullishness. And then you could say, okay, well, I'll buy a little bit here since we didn't reach this bottom area. Like I'll just buy a little bit on this pullback, a little bit on this pullback. And then if we start to get close to that yellow line, then I could think, okay, this could be some type of, fake out bounce or something, but we're really close to the yellow line. So I'm going to take some profit on these like highs, and then I'll just buy back on whatever dips that we might have. And in other words, you made your money, right? Because you do want to make some money. You don't necessarily want to be holding forever, right? You don't know what could happen. And so if we do have a massive pump, you might want to take advantage of that. And massive pumps often are followed by dumps. And so then you want to buy back in so that you're still in the market, especially if you're still in this blue zone, okay? If we're still in this blue zone, do not hesitate to buy back in because it's still a great holding area. And then if we get into this purple area, you probably just want to be trading every chance that you get. Like every time there's a high and every time there's a low, you sell, right? Every time there's a high, every time there's a low, you buy, and then every time there's a high, you sell. And so you're just trading and you're making your money. And then if we enter this pink area, right? If we're entering this pink area, Bitcoin's overheated because you've learned the hard lessons from the last couple cycles, and you know that whenever Bitcoin gets into this pink area that I have drawn out here on my alpha channels, then you're going to take your profit every chance that you get, because this market is probably going to turn around and dump eventually again, right? That's just the message that I wanted to share today, trying to reinforce these concepts in my own mind and remind me of the steps that I need to take in order to be healthy in this market and also to stay safe. So without further ado, I think I'm not going to spend too much more time here, except perhaps to point out my fib channels, which again, I've been basing a lot of this predictive power on. And here we can see that we have had a total rejection of the 618 in my fib channels. And we are almost at the bottom, and the bottom of that fib channel is approximately $25,000, okay? So I don't know if that means anything. It's like right at the bottom of that second DCA area, right, that I have. So I don't know if that means anything. I don't know if it means that we're going to bounce off of that, but these fib channels have been working pretty well for rejections, and I've never seen one break down below the previous fib line. So if we do get to this area, I might consider that we could potentially have a bounce there. And I'll probably load up a fair amount here. I wasn't buying that much at these levels, but if we do hit around 25,000, I will be loading up, um, um, a good size. Whereas previously maybe 10%, 15%, I think like 35% of my cash I might deploy around $25,000, in this area that we're approaching. And then, I'll decide if I need to, how to use the rest later on, should we get to the lower levels. And again, like these things are on diagonals because price action over time tends to go up, right? So because price action tends to go up over time, it means that these lower levels get higher in price. And so I'll just be glad to buy at the lower levels at higher prices should we go sideways for a while. It's not a problem, okay? But I'll still try to mind these DCA diagonals, if that makes sense to you guys. And I hope you understand that I've put a lot of consideration into this. Um, you know, it's it's been a lot of tough, thinking and a lot of resistance from, friends and people that I know who just thought that I was being too bearish. But I really think that my background in global politics and, global economics really helps, and about a decade of experience in international business has really helped me to understand the macro forces that are at play here, which is why even 10-year traders were suggesting like 28K would be the bottom, whereas I'm predicting these type of potential lows and even have emergency contingency plans for perhaps even 14,000, 12,000, or even 10,000. And I will keep open-minded that we could have a total reset because all of this was free money. Okay, all of this was free money, and it wouldn't be unnatural to come back to these type of areas. Okay, you can see these fib channels also played out back here, right? Like I'm not kidding you guys, right? Like you can see this dump here. It came all the way down to the red line. And so I could conceivably see it coming down as low as like $18,000 to the red line. And in this case, there would have been another channel here, and it came all the way back down to this line. So maybe 25,000 to 18,000 is a reasonable assumption. Okay. Who knows how much further we could go, but I really think 25 to 18,000 is a good range. And personally, I think like 20 to 22,000 is, a reasonable target for perhaps the bottom. We may go lower. We may end up bouncing right now and have some crazy V-shaped recovery like we did here, but most likely we're going to do one of these rounded bottoms, and so you're probably going to have plenty of time, just like we had these rounded tops, rounded bottom here, rounded tops, rounded bottom, rounded top. We're probably going to have another rounded bottom, and you're going to have several weeks, maybe even several months to accumulate. and to get your head on straight and to save up some money. So get your job, get your second job, save up some money, and then to accumulate good projects so that you're ready for when we rock and roll. It could be a year later, but you want to have those things. You want to have those things in your pocket, as opposed to other people who are just freaking out and selling, right? Okay, guys. Yep, I think other than that, let's just go ahead and check at the. Let's see. Oh my God, Luna. Luna, it broke the bottom of my box. This thing is such a scandal. 26 cents. My God. My God, that's 1/3 of the IDO price for that thing. Let's see. This is what can happen in crypto, guys. Like, there are bad people in this industry. Bad people. They will take your money, right? There's no surprise this is happening right before the crypto crash. Somebody knew something, and it's gonna come out. Okay. Let's see. Let's do my favorite stocks, the NAS 100. You can see that we broke down from 12,000, and I suggested we are probably going to find a bottom at 11,000 to 10,000, and 10,500-ish, most likely. Just add a little line here. So somewhere in this area, I could see us crashing down to. A lot of people were laughing at me. They were saying there's no way that the stock market is going to crash this much. I said, guys, pay attention to this. Like, we are going to go down to our weekly EMAs and potentially even lower. And sure enough, we're almost there, right? We're almost there. We have just crashed down through every level. You know, some people made fun of me actually when I suggested this was a Wyckoff thrust. They said, no, we're going to have a reversal. The market has reversed itself. I said, most likely we're just coming back down. All of this stuff is recorded and in the videos. And even if I've had 2 moments of bullishness in the history since November, only 2 moments of bullishness. In fact, I have always consistently warned that the most likely outcome is this one, right? And plus, those 2 spots were very good spots to be bullish at because those were our last chance for any type of hope in the market. And had the Federal Reserve and Labor Department had good news for us, then maybe we could have seen bounces at least, and those would have been good trades. But I did, of course, suggest stop loss values as well as invalidation values, and so that's why that's legitimate trading. You don't have to be a fortune teller. You only have to understand the market that you're playing in and the risk and rewards, right? So we've now crossed that first threshold, that first DCA point, and then, we might have, a couple more DCA points for the stock market coming down here. In the last episode, I told you that Bank of America had predicted potentially, I believe it was 35% more pain on. I forget what I was mentioning last episode, but they suggested significantly more pain in the market. And you can see the NASDAQ has just broken through my old LARP lines. At first, we were conforming to it pretty well. We reached the bottom where I suggested, and then we pumped up like what I suggested. And I thought we had a chance to double bottom, but this market just has gone crazy, right? And this would have been if we had another rally, if the Fed came in to save us. They never did, so we can just delete that one. And we're coming back to these things here. Of course, you can see my drawing, right, where I suggested is kind of the bottom. And, if we didn't get rescued by the Fed, then most likely, we could curve out and bounce off of this kind of area. Sort of like what we did here. And kind of what we did here. You can see. This is also my green line, right? So I was suggesting how, the price action tends to round out and then eventually bounce off those type of areas. And I would just suggest it's most likely here. And God help us if it's lower, because that will drag crypto down incredibly. Let's see. Yep, just just been blowing through every level, every level. I mean, we've only got the last level left, right? This has been shock and awe, shock and awe. Yeah, look at this projection, right? So you can see what we might be able to do. 10% down lower, perhaps to these areas here. And again, stocks are important because they reflect, because Bitcoin and the crypto market is highly correlated to them. So if we do end up working our way down here, then like the S&P, it could be a long process to recover, and it could also, uh, it could also be very traumatic for the crypto charts. Not really sure how we would go about this. This kind of like Nike shape, right? Tends to be popular. Something like that maybe, which would be, like middle of 2023, maybe end of 2023 before we even get to these areas. Like it's just going to be we're just going to be in a different world, guys, okay? Like don't expect a V-shaped recovery like this one. Probably more of like this swoosh type of shape, but we'll see. We'll see. And end the Russian war in Ukraine or some other like crazy good news could be what pumps us up, okay? Like always be open-minded to possible bullishness appearing and make sure that you're ready for that also because you can get too bearish. And in these downturns at the bottom of the market is when you want to be the most open-minded to bullishness because you start to get to levels where you're more likely to go up than down. And again, at the top of the market is where you want to be very bearish, like I was at the top of the market. Like I was bearish in November, right? Because at the top of the market is where you're most likely to just go down. Okay, it's counterintuitive, but you have to train yourself to think that way. And the volatility, like we're actually having high volatility, but it's not like super high. We could actually get higher. Let's check our USDT, see how much money people are just yep, everyone's get. Oh my God. Whoa. We've never had this level of USDT before. People have never gotten out of their positions this intensely. It's that's insane. This is this is chaos. Okay, like this is unprecedented. We have no idea how much cash they're going to get into. So, but again, for USDT, which is the stable coin, right? It's just dollars, right? Eventually it has to come back. Like I said, like at the top of the market is when you want to be bearish. So people will eventually come back into crypto, even though they're getting into dollars right now. Stable coins, they're getting into dollars. They're going to eventually come back. But this thing, I told you it was going to break through this one. Like people were saying, it's kind of topped out, most likely to get rejected. We're going to have another bull run, right? Like the bulls were saying like, okay, we're going to do this thing. They thought that this was just a weird thing, like just ignore that and that we hit bounced there, we're going to bounce here, and then people are going to they're all in their USDT and that they're going to get back into crypto and we're going to have a major bull run. But in fact, people just continued to get into their dollars at unprecedented rates. And it's all because of the macroeconomics that I explained to you guys. Like that I've been one of the only YouTubers out there really explaining these things in detail and holding your hand with the narrative about what's really happening in the world along the way. Whereas everyone else, all these other moon boys are trying to shill you coins and get you into too expensive positions. They've been trying to tell you that another bull run is coming. They're saying, everyone's bearish, so I'm bullish, right? Like that's a common thing to say. Guys, sometimes there's reasons to be bearish. Like there's legitimate reasons. There's fear, and then there's legitimate reasons. And when there's legitimate reasons in the world, then expect something extraordinary to happen, and that's what happened. Um, yeah, yeah. So, wow, just incredible, guys. We have not seen these levels or this intensity of fleeing the market before. People are just fleeing the market. They are scared of crypto right now. Let's see, ETH dominance. I mean, I still think that eventually ETH is going to turn up. Obviously, I made this one months ago, but at some point, I think ETH is going to have its run again, and it has these kind of like strange trends on it, but in general, it does put in this path, right? You see this? Like this one's a bit stretched out, and so I guess we're maybe doing something like this, right? It's just going to take longer than you'd expect, and hopefully we don't have a crazy breakdown, which we're starting to get, to be honest. So let's just watch this space, but I think ETH is going to survive. It's the real blue chip like Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin's dominance is just breaking out. Are we going to see Bitcoin skyrocket as the market flees into Bitcoin? Potentially, yeah. We don't know yet. We don't know. But clearly, with Bitcoin breaking out of this wedge bullishly, the market feels that Bitcoin is the safe haven right now. Look at this candle. Bam. Scared of everything else. They only believe in Bitcoin right now. Near crashing, just insane. When we were trading up here, these were our levels. Now look where we are. 75% down. Even I was hopeful that there would be a bottom to Luna because I saw two things. Okay, one is that on the smaller time frames, like on the 15-minute, we had somebody step in and buy $300 million of Luna, and so I thought, okay, maybe they have a rescue plan, and that this would have been a great place to buy in. We saw that live. We saw $300 million be put into Luna, and after that, like you see this little candle in the middle, right? So we're on the 15-minute, okay? You see this little candle right here. Somebody came in and put $300 million into Luna. And I said, guys, like that's a bottom. I didn't mean bottom. I just meant it's like a bounce area. Like that's a bottom area to bounce off of. And sure enough, look at this. Boom. 600%. And if you caught that really bottom, maybe like 700, percent up. Just incredible. Just very incredible. You could have had 700% gains on your money if you had identified when that $300 million was injected into Luna. But what happened next? Well, it turned out to be a classic pump and dump. So whatever billionaire put in $300 million into Luna, they decided to then sell it. They bought it down here. They made 700%, and then they decided to dump it on your heads. And Luna dropped 96% again. Again. Already, let's see, this thing has dropped. Look at this. It's dropped so far you can't even see the price action. It has dropped 99.7% worthless. 24-cent Luna when we were talking about $105 Luna just weeks ago. Not even weeks, like a week ago, right? So this has destroyed lives, and I'm telling you, these vampire venture capitalists, the transnational globalist billionaires who are involved in crypto are not your friends. They are not your friends. They do not have the same ideals that you have. You maybe just want some privacy and you want to minimize your taxes and you want to safeguard your retirement. That's all you want, right? You want just a nice family and that's it. Like you just want some happiness. These guys, these vampire venture capitalists and these transnational, you know, international globalists who they don't care about local values. They don't care how you live. They don't care about your retirement. They don't care about your family. They are all up in crypto, ready to just destroy you. And look up what happened to Luna. It's still an ongoing investigation, but there are going to be shocking details coming out. And just understand, this industry isn't created for you. It's created as part of an international war for the dominance of digital currency over the next 10 years. And either Bitcoin is going to win, or one of these stable coins is going to win, or the Chinese yuan, digital yen is going to win, or it's going to be the U.S. digital dollar, or it's going to be some Eurozone digital euro type thing, right? So it's going to be one of these major powers that assumes dominance, and I wouldn't be surprised if a government was involved in creating this scandal. And I also wouldn't be surprised if it was just a vampire vulture capitalist and transnational billionaires with no values who don't give a fuck about you. Pardon my language, but they don't give a care about you, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they ruined you intentionally and that's what the whole setup was from the beginning. If not this, then there's a number of other projects that those cases have been proven to be true. Okay? So just be very careful. Select your projects wisely. Have 10 to 20 coins that you buy in at the bottom that are really good projects, just in case, two or three of them die, right? Or have scandals or something. Be only buying at the very bottom, I mean, DCAN, but at these levels. Don't be buying at tops of markets, right? Because they can always dump on you at the top. But at the bottom, they can't dump after a certain level. You already get 95% down. So, use some smarts about it. And we hit my first DCA zone. We hit my second one. Who knows when the third one is going to come up. But most likely we'll start chopping down into that area potentially or going sideways. And perhaps a bounce, and then perhaps later we could hit the lower ones. You never know. We'll find out. We'll find out. But it should take some time. I want to show you just let's get on the weekly here. I want to show you what these EMAs are going to look like at the bottom. They're going to pinch together like this, bullishly. They're just going to pinch together. See this yellow one and this red one? They're going to pinch together. And then we're going to have a bull run. See this top here? They pinch together negatively, and we just crash down to hell. Okay, it's that simple. Don't go crazy, guys. Don't drive yourselves crazy, second guessing everything. Right now, we're pinched negatively, and we haven't pinched positively yet. So most likely, just down and chop, until these EMAs pinch positively, and then, we can get some type of potential run. That was a really bad drawing, but something like this where they cross over, right? And then this can be your indication. Hey, get all in. Yeah, you didn't get the absolute bottom, but we got a positive cross, right? It's that simple. These things don't lie, right? These EMAs don't lie. My mentor, Crypto Retta, taught me that. And it saved a lot of people's lives, okay? A lot of livelihoods. People will commit suicide during this time because they don't know the things that I'm sharing with you. And if any of this helped somebody, or if it helped even save a life, you know, I'm here primarily to help myself remember the lessons that I've learned, but I hope there can also be some good that comes out of it. Um, just in case some of you are pretty desperate right now, because this is not fun. It's not fun to watch you know, your savings and your profits to just disappear to zero. But you know what is fun? Buying all those things back when they're zero and watching it go up. So if you made it this far, stay strong because we're going to get through these levels. We're going to get through it together. You can join me in my Discord, Alpha Commission. You can go to alphacommission.com and it'll have links to it. The website's not very professional, but hey, I didn't care about that stuff during the bull market. Why would anyone care during the bull market? Like, we're overheated. Like, you can just predict that we're going to dump, right? Like, why would I care about that stuff? The important time is buying down here. All of this stuff is, this channel, everything that I've been building for infrastructure for Alpha Commission has just been for the bear market so that by the end of it, people who are smart, people who have grit, people who have a work ethic to understand and to stay in the market even when things get tough, so that they have a place to call home, and then we can talk together and help each other make the best decisions over the next couple months. All these guys just bull market like yahoos and gurus and people wanting to be influencers and you know people wanting to be millionaires, riding a bull run, all that stuff. It's fun, guys. Like, it's really fun, but those people are super annoying, to be honest. Like, we want the people who have been humbled by this market and who want to do better, and they are not like cocky, jerks, right? Which, a lot of us, in crypto are highly independent, kind of on the spectrum, pretty technical people, and, we don't always communicate the best, right? And we want our islands. We want, we have our opinions and we kind of stick hard to them. But now's the time to be open-minded and to look towards a new future, and whatever happened back here, just to put it all behind us, learn the lessons from it, but put it all behind us and be open to a new possibility that may take a few months. It could take a year to build out, and there could be some hardship along the way. There could be some ups and downs. This market does not have to do what it did in the past. People who tell you that, Bitcoin never broke below its all-time high before, yeah, well, they've always had the Fed on their side. This time, the Fed is against them. There's a difference. There's not going to be free money in the system. And so things can change. Be open-minded to change. Don't be just superstitious. Don't be just wishful thinking. Be open-minded to levels lower than ever happened before, and be open-minded to potential turnarounds. Right? We can have black swan events, and we could also have white swan events where just something amazing happens, and you have to be ready to go. If you're out of the market, you're not going to be able to catch that. You're going to be getting in at the top, FOMOing in, and then getting dumped on and losing all of your money again. So feel free to join me over at Alpha Commission. It's a free Discord. That means that, I'm not going to babysit you. I'm not going to hold your hand through everything. You're not paying me. And also, I'm not going to keep people around who annoy me, okay? I just want good, honest people who are, gel with whatever we're trying to put together, and then we can share our ideas as we guide each other through whatever unpredictable era is going to come up so that we can make wise decisions. And I'm also going to be hanging out at my friends group, which is a paid Discord, where they will hold your hand and where they will have, really great lessons set up and where they have great teachers and calls and all that stuff, called AR Collective, and just one of the best Discord and most healthy groups in the market. And so I always want to give a shout out to them because I'm really proud of what they've done. Maybe in a year or two, maybe I could aspire to, even create a fraction of what they have. But until then, again, like we are just continuous learners and we can group together and help each other out if you're not ready to be part of those paid discords or whatever. Um, but I do recommend do not just be alone and don't just be alone in dark thoughts either. It's not over. It's not over. It's just the beginning, guys. Don't give up. You've come this far. Don't give up. There's a lot of upside from where we're going to base off of. There's got a lot of upside. And it's just funny how this market is always the opposite of what it should be. You see all the people getting in at the top, and then you see nobody at the bottom. But that's opposite, isn't it? You want to be in here and ride it up, and then you want to get the hell out at the top. There should be no one at the top and everyone at the bottom, right? But human nature is kind of counterintuitive sometimes because of our greed and our fear. So if you can control those things and you can master it, and you can get through the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and you can work your ass off and put some savings into accumulating some of the best projects, then you're going to ride the next wave. And even if it's a baby wave, it could be a big wave, but it could be, even if it's a baby wave, you're going to make a ton of money, right? Okay, guys, that was your alpha for the day. Hope you guys are, mentally safe and happy, at least in that you are learning what is necessary to succeed in the market, even if you didn't succeed this previous cycle, such that you can succeed in the next one. So stay safe and happy accumulating.